page 12.1. Chapter 12, Forms of Government. Government is the most important organ of the state. It is the instrument through which the state does everything. The state expresses itself through the institution of the government. The government is the administrative organ of the state. It is the constitution which makes possible the formation of the government, one that specifies how a government will work and to what extent. 1. Constitutionalism and Constitution. 1a. Constitutionalism. Constitutionalism is usually understood in the narrow and the broader senses. In the narrow sense, constitutionalism refers to the functioning of the government in such a manner that it works within the constraints as prescribed by the law of the land. So understood, it refers to a government which is limited insofar as it exercises its powers within the framework of the system, limited insofar as it does not arbitrarily limited insofar as there exist limitations by the institutions and processes of the system. Much before there were constitutions, there was the constitutionalism, that is, limitations on the exercise of the powers of the rulers. In the broader sense, constitutionalism refers to, as Andrew Haywood (politics) says, a set of political values and aspirations that reflect the desire to protect liberty through the establishment of integral and external checks on government power. Inverted comma close. Constitutionalism, Frank Bielli (the Blackwell Dictionary of Political Science) says within inverted commas, is sometimes used to describe a position for constitutions, constitutional procedures, constitutional conventions, and the rule of law. Inverted comma close. Standard Encyclopedia of Philosophy refers to constitutionalism as one where government can and should be legally limited in its powers, and within that its authority depends on its observing these limitations. Constitution. 1b. Constitution. The Constitution refers to the fundamental laws and principles which prescribe the nature, functions, and the limits of a government. It is autobiography of power. From where does it come? Where does it do, and to what extent? Law in Encyclopedia says, within inverted comma, the Constitution is the fundamental law, written or underwritten, that establishes the character of a government by defining the basic principles to which society must conform, by describing the organization of the government and regulation, distribution, and limitations on the functions of different government departments, and by prescribing the extent and manner of the exercise of its sovereign powers. Chapter 12, Forms of Government. 1b. Constitution, page 12.2. The term within inverted comma constitution, which comes from Latin, refers to the issuing of an important law. Now, the Constitution refers to a set fundamental rules governing states. Though the term was first used in relation to the 1688 English Revolution, it was Montesquieu who favorably referred to the English political system as the within inverted comma British Constitution, though it has never existed in the written form. The first written constitution was the American Constitution, drawn by the Philadelphia Convention in 1787. Constitution, as the fundamental law of land, is the assemblage of fundamental rules of the basis of which a government is formed, functions and exercises its powers. In fact, it is more than an administrative document. It reflects the aspirations of the people it belongs to. We may briefly sum up the objectives for which a constitution stands. 1. It explains the system of administration how the government would work and on what principles. It specifies the nature and form of polity. 2. It explains the composition of the government, what would constitute its organs and how would they relate themselves to one another. It thus specifies the institutions of the government. 3. It identifies the repository of power, who would have the ultimate sovereign power and who would exercise such power and to what extent. It thus specifies the working of the government together with the devolution and distribution of power. 4. It explains the obligations of the government as well as of the people together with their rights and liberties, how the rulers and the ruled shall be related to each other. It thus specifies the ways and means of protecting the rights of the people. 5. It explains the values and aspirations of the people. For what the Constitution exists, it thus specifies the goals and objectives which the governments would seek to achieve. Constitutions are either unwritten or written. An American Constitution is one whose fundamental laws are scattered and one which has not been codified. The Britishers do not have a written constitution. New Zealand and Israel are also said to have uncodified constitution. Unwritten constitutions are always evolved once. There is no Republic Day for unwritten constitutions. The written constitutions, on the other hand, are those whose fundamental rules are codified in a document. Such constitutions are enacted once. Those who have written constitutions, they do celebrate the constitution within bracket or say the Republic bracket closed day. India, USA, Russia have the written constitutions. Over the years, unwritten constitutions have possessed the written part within bracket. In England, the parliamentary acts, for example, have the written portion bracket closed as the written constitutions. With the passage of time, develop conventions within bracket in USA. The cabinet is the result of the development of tradition bracket closed. Constitutions are said to be either flexible or rigid or both. A flexible constitution is one where the amendment procedure and the lawmaking procedure is the same, that is 50.1%. The rigid constitution is one where the two methods differ, that is the amendment procedure is different within bracket, that is with higher percentage bracket close than the lawmaking procedure. Britain has a flexible constitution and the USA has a written constitutions where the amendment procedure combines the flexible and the rigid procedures. Those are called partly flexible and partly rigid constitution. India's method of amendment is both flexible and rigid. The flexible constitutions change too frequently, while the rigid ones too infrequently. Too much rigidity is as harmful as too much flexibility. Constitutions must change so to keep pace with the changing times. Chapter 12, Forms of Government, page 12.3. 2. Organs of government. A government works through its organs. The three usual organs of the government are legislature, executive, judiciary. Though the communist part countries possess or had possessed an organ over these three, the former USSR had the Presidium, and the present People's Republic of China has the Standing Committee. 2a. Legislature. Legislature is a lawmaking body in a democratic polity. In parliamentary systems of government, the legislature is formally supreme and appoints the executive. In presidential systems of government, the legislature is considered a power branch which is equal to and independent of the executive. In addition to enacting laws, legislatures usually have exclusive authority to raise taxes and adopt the budget and other money bills, amend the constitution, within bracket somewhere with the concurrence of the subordinate legislature and somewhere with the concurrence of the people, bracket closed. control the executive, participate in electing officials. Usually it has two chambers, though in China it has only one chamber. And the former South Africa's apartheid government had three chambers: Home of Assembly, 178 members reserved for white; House of Representatives, 85 members reserved for colored or mixed race people; and the House of Delegates, 45 members reserved for Asians. In Isle of Man, the parliament consists of three chambers. In the bicameral legislature, the lower chamber within bracket, usually more powerful except in USA bracket closed, is popularly elected on the basis of universal adult franchise, and the upper house somewhere elected directly within bracket USA, somewhere elected indirectly within bracket India, and somewhere nominated within bracket Britain. Owing to the evolution and growth of political parties and the party discipline therein, there is a decline in the influence of the legislatures. 2b. Executive. The executive is another important organ of the government, usually referred to as the government itself. The executive branch contains the head of government. Who is the head of this branch? Under the doctrine of the separation of powers, the executive is not supposed to make laws within bracket. It is the role of the legislature not to interpret them within bracket. It is the role of the judiciary. In bracket close. In practice, this separation is rarely absolute. The executive is identified by the head of government. In a presidential system, the person within bracket the president may also be the head of state, whereas in a parliamentary system, he or she is usually the leader of the largest party in the legislature and is most commonly termed the prime minister. In France, executive power is shared between the president and the prime minister, and this system has been reproduced in a number of former French colonies, while Switzerland and Bosnia and Herzegovina likewise have collegiate systems for the role of head of state and government. The head of state, the head of government is assisted by a number of ministers who usually have responsibilities for particular areas, as per example health, education, foreign affairs bracket closed, and by a large number of government employees or civil servants. The executive enforces the laws, runs the administration, makes appointments, formulates policies within bracket internal as well as external bracket closed. In the parliamentary within bracket Westminster bracket closed system, it almost controls the legislature within bracket when in majority bracket closed, from where it is taken and to which it is usually responsible. In presidential system, it functions independent of the legislature. (2c) Judiciary. Judiciary is the third important organ of the government. Usually the highest court is referred to as the judiciary. The judiciary's judges are usually appointed by the executive heads, except in communist countries where they are elected bracket closed and can be removed through impeachment by the legislatures. Its main job includes the settlement of disputes, the interpretation of the law and the constitution, to protect the constitution, the federal system and the rights and liberties of the people. The judicial organ of the government is kept independent from the legislature and the executive. Chapter 12, Forms of Government, page 12.4. 2d. Theory of separation of powers. Montesquieu within bracket 1689 to 1755 bracket closed, the French political philosopher, in his book within bracket The Spirit of the Laws bracket closed, had advocated the theory of separation of powers, the lawmaking power, the executive power and the judicial power be kept in separate hands. For he assumes that whenever these three or any two of them are in the hands of one person or a body or persons, the life and liberty of the people would be exposed to arbitrary control. The English jurist Blackstone, within bracket, commentaries on the law of England, bracket closed, and the American statesman Madison, within bracket the Federalist, bracket closed, all supported this theory. Because of inherent weaknesses of this theory, France abolished it after having adopting it for about 2 years, and the United States neutralized the theory by incorporating the system of checks and balances in its constitutions. Within inverted comma, separation of powers, inverted comma clause, is a feature more inherent in presidential systems, whereas within inverted comma, fusion of powers, bracket inverted comma clause, is characteristic of parliamentary ones. Within inverted comma, mixed system, inverted comma clause, for somewhere in between, usually near the midpoint. The most notable example of a mixed system in France's, within bracket, current Fifth Republic. In fusion of powers, one branch, within bracket, invariably the elected legislature, bracket closed, is supreme, and the other branches are subservient to it. In separation of powers, each branch is largely, within bracket, although not necessarily or entirely, bracket closed, independent of the other branches. Independent in this context means either that selection of each branch happens independently of the other branches, or at least that each branch is not beholden to any of the others for its continued existence. Accordingly, in a fusion of power system such as that of the United Kingdom, first described as such by Walter Weggott, the people elect the legislature, which in turn, within inverted comma, creates the executive. As Professor Cherry 1 Sanders writes, within inverted comma, the intermixture of institutions, within bracket, in the UK, bracket closed, is such that it is almost impossible to describe it as a separation of powers, inverted comma close. In a separation of powers, the national legislature does not select the person or persons of the executive. Instead, the executive is chosen by other means, within bracket, direct popular election, electoral college selection, etc., within bracket closed. In a parliamentary system, when the term of the legislature ends, there is the end of tenure of executive elected by that legislature. Although in a presidential system, the executive's term may or may not coincide with the legislatures, its selection is technically independent of the legislature. In most of the countries, there are three organs of the government, exceptions apart, such as some such exceptions are: 1. People's Republic of China, National People's Congress under People's Republic of China, National People's Congress, 4 branches, Standing Committee, State Council, Supreme Court. 2. Germany, 6 branches. The 6 main bodies enshrined in the Basic Law of the Federal Republic of Germany are Federal President, within bracket Bundespresident, bracket closed. Next, Federal Cabinet, within brackets Bundesregierung, bracket closed, executive. Next, Federal Diet, within bracket Bundestag, bracket closed, and Federal Council, within bracket Bundesrat, bracket closed, legislative. Next, Federal Assembly, Bundesversammlung, bracket closed, within bracket BUNDER, wrong, BUNDESVERAMMLUNG, bracket closed, Presidential Electoral College. Next, Federal Constitutional Court, within bracket BUNDESVERFASSUNG, SGRICHT bracket closed. Page 12.5, chapter 12, forms of government. 3. Classification of governments. 3a. Aristotle's classification. Though Plato had classified governments on the basis of reason, saying that the states could be the government by the philosophers, the semi-philosophers and ignorant, it was his people. Aristotle, who made such a classification that remained good for a long period of time, he proposed two bases of classification. 1. Number of people wielding the power, and 2. The purpose for which power was to be used. On 1, he says that if power is wielded by one person, it is monarchy. If the power is in the hands of few persons, it is aristocracy. And if the power is with many or all, it is polity. On the basis of purpose, Aristotle said the purpose could be pure, within bracket, when the power is exercised in the interest of all, bracket closed, or perverted, within bracket, when the power is exercised in the interest of those who rule, bracket closed. In the first case, when the power is in the hands of the person and the purpose is pure, it is monarchy. And if the purpose is perverted, it is tyranny. When the power is in the hands of few people and the purpose is pure, it is aristocracy. And if the purpose is perverted, it is oligarchy. When the power is in the hands of many or all and the purpose is pure, it is polity. And if the purpose is perverted, it is democracy. 3b. Jelinek's, Marriott's and Leacock's classification. The classification of government as is given by Jelinek, Marriott and Leacock can be stated table-wise as under. Jelinek. First, governments. Under governments, there are two branches, monarchy, republic. Under monarchy, hereditary and elective. Under hereditary, absolute, limited. Under republic, there are three branches, democratic, aristocratic and oligarchical. Under democratic, there are two branches, direct, indirect. After Jelinek, Marriott, governments. Under government, bases. Under bases, there are three branches, distribution of powers, types of constitutions, relationship of separation from legislature. Under distribution of powers, unitary, federal, monarchical. Under types of constitution, there are two branches, flexible and rigid. Under relationship of separation from legislature, there are three branches, presidential, parliamentary, despotic. Chapter 12, Forms of Government, page 12.6, page 12.6, under 3b, Jelinek's, Marriott's and Leacock's classification. Now Leacock, governments. Under government there are two branches, despotic and democratic. Under democratic there are two divisions, constitutional monarchy, republic. Under constitutional monarchy there are two divisions, unitary, federal. Under federal there are two divisions, parliamentary, presidential. Under federal there are two divisions, parliamentary and presidential. Under democratic, the other division, republic. Under republic there are two divisions, unitary and federal. Under unitary there are two divisions, parliamentary and presidential. Under federal there are two divisions, parliamentary and presidential. 3c. MacLeaver's classification. MacLeaver's classification can be treated as in the table below. In the horizontal column, basis of division. The next column, capital A, the next column, capital B. Under basis of division in the vertical column, 1, under 1, under Roman 1, numerical 1, sphere of activity, numerical 2, nature of the state. Under Roman 2, under basis of the division, numerical 1, distribution of power, 2, nature of constitution, 3, nature of legislature, 4, nature of executive, 5, nature of electorate, 6, nature of party system. Under capital A in the vertical column, liberal, democratic. Under democratic, 1, direct, 2, indirect, 3, limited monarchy, 4, republican. Under unitary, under liberal, unitary, flexible, bicameral, parliamentary, universal, adult franchise, party opposition. Under party opposition, 1, 2 party, 2, multi-party. Under capital B in the vertical column, 1, socialist, 2, socialist rebel. Totalitarian, 1, absolute monarchy, 2, aristocracy, 3, military rule. 1, federal, 2, confederal, 3, world state, 1, rigid, 2, semi-rigid, unicameral, presidential, limited franchise, party corporation. Wrong. Repeat, party cooperation. Chapter 12, Forms of Government, page 12.7, Roman 3D, some forms of government explained. The above tables refer to certain forms of government. A liberal government is one which stands by individual liberty and seeks a welfare responsible government within bracket UK, USA, Sweden, etc. bracket closed. A socialist government is one which establishes socialism through the socialization of the means of production, especially the major ones within bracket People's Republic of China, Cuba, North Korea, etc. bracket closed. A liberal socialist government is one which is semi-liberal and semi-socialist, private sector and public sector working together within bracket India or of Nehru's times bracket closed. Direct democratic government is one in which the citizens rule themselves without their elected representatives within bracket some cantons of Switzerland bracket closed. Indirect democratic government is one where government functions through the selected representatives within bracket numerous democratic states are ruled in this manner bracket closed. Limited or constitutional monarchy is a form of government where the head of the state is hereditarily crowned but with limited or constitutional powers. The British king or the British queen is only the constitutional head of the state. Absolute government is a government in which the ruler possesses absolute and unlimited powers within bracket military or despotic regimes bracket closed. Aristocratic government is a government where few possesses powers of governance. Unitary government is a government where a single rightful government rules as per the provisions of the constitutions within bracket UK, France, China, Sri Lanka, etc. bracket closed. Federal government is one where there exists dual forms of government on the basis of decentralization of powers within bracket USA, India, Australia, Germany, etc. Confederal government is a government wherein sovereign states agree to form a government for certain specific purposes. World state is a government where all the states now sovereign become unit governments under the world government. Parliamentary government is one in which the ministers are taken from the legislature and are responsible to it within bracket India, UK, etc. bracket closed. Presidential government is one where the executive and legislature exist independent of each other within bracket USA. The simple method of amendment makes the constitution flexible while the absolute method makes it a rigid one. 4. Democratic and authoritarian. 4a. Democratic government. A democratic government is one which is as against dictatorial one, people's government composed by them, ruled by them and works for them. A dictatorial system negates people's right to rule themselves. A democratic government, as against the dictatorship, is decentralized. Power is decentralized horizontally as well as vertically. Dictatorship thrives on centralism. Democracies are done wrong. Repeat, democracies are limited but not weak, while dictatorships are absolute but not responsive. Democracies are both responsive as well as responsible, while the dictatorships are neither responsible nor educative. Transparency is the characteristic of the Democratic Party. Secrecy that of dictatorships. Democracy's strength lies in the debate, dissent and compromise. Dictatorship neither allows debate nor dissent. It regards compromise as the weakness of the democrats. Decisions get delayed in democracies, but they are to the satisfaction of all. Decisions in dictatorship are taken without any delay, but they are to the satisfaction of the dictator. There is neither any check nor any balance in dictatorship, while in democracies there are checks so that there is a balance in every branch of government. There are numerous characteristics of democratic government. Mention may be made especially of the following. A. As a form of government, it is peopled structurally and limited administratively. B. As a form of state, it is caring, responsive, accommodating. 3. C. As an aspect of society, it harmonizes and coordinates all cohesion. D. As a way of life, it teaches how to live and live well. Chapter 12, Forms of Government, page 12.8. 4b, Authoritarianism. Authoritarianism is a form of control as to how best the obedience to the authority of the state can be extracted. Authoritarian regimes are highly hierarchical, largely imposing and strictly secretive. The use of oppressive measure is its usual instrument. In its use of the term, it is close to totalitarianism, but there are differences between the two. First, authoritarian leaders, though often they repress their political opponents, may also leave a larger sphere untouched for private life than a totalitarian government. Unlike totalitarian government, authoritarian governments usually lack a guiding ideology, tolerate some pluralism in social organism, lack of power to mobilize the whole population in pursuit of national goals, and exercise their power within relatively predictable limits. Authoritarianism does not permit any opposition. The opposition is either in jail or in exile. It does not provide a government where people can express themselves or can make their rules accountable to them. It provides a government which is of the ruler, by the ruler and for the ruler. It neither grants liberties to the people nor ensures their protection. Dissent is not permissible. Monarchical regimes, especially the absolute ones, are examples of authoritarian regimes. So are all forms of dictatorships, fascist or military or both. Despotisms are also and always authoritarian. Theocratic systems tend to be authoritarian. Authoritarian governments not only control polity, they control society, economy and culture. Where it means is that all aspects of life, social, economic, political, culture, are guided and directed by the authoritarian regimes. These regimes decide what one wears and what one eats and possibly at what time. Politics, how is the government run? Interrogation. Under politics, there is a table. In the horizontal column, there are 4 parts: dictatorship, totalitarian, theocracy, monarchy. Under dictatorship, in the vertical column, ruled by a single leader who has not been elected and may use force to keep control In a military dictatorship, the army is in control. Usually, there is little or no attention to public opinion or individual rights. Under totalitarian rule by a single political party, people are forced to do what the government tells them and may also be prevented from leaving the country. Under theocracy, a form of government where the rulers claim to be ruling on behalf of a set of religious ideas or as direct agents of a deity. Under monarchy in the vertical column, a monarchy has a king or queen who has absolute power. Power is passed along through the family. Authoritarian government is a government from above, enforced. It does not mean rule through authority, for authority is always associated with legitimacy. An authoritarian government may, by illegitimate as well. I repeat, an authoritarian government may be illegitimate as well. Authoritarianism is absolutism writ large, for its coercion, regression, and repression, obliterating, and the distinction between state and society. Bonapartism of Napoleon within bracket France, Peronism within bracket Argentina, and Francoism within bracket Spain are example of authoritarianism. Page 12.9, Chapter 12, Forms of Government. 5. Parliamentary, presidential, semi-presidential. 5a. Parliamentary form of government. It is also known as cabinet or prime ministerial form of government. Its chief characteristic is the close relationship between legislature and executive. It means that the executive within bracket, that is ministers bracket close, is taken from the legislature and is accountable also to the legislature. Parliamentary systems have a clear distinction between the head of the state and the head of the government. President, king, chancellor, or whatever name there may be, is the head of the state. Nominal constitutional head having powers usually in his her name. Prime Minister is the head of the government who together with the other ministers forms the Council of Ministers, which is responsible within bracket, that is all the ministers collectively are responsible bracket closed to the lower house of the legislature. The other features of the parliamentary systems are political homogeneity, secrecy of the proceedings of the Council of Ministers, leadership of the Prime Ministers, etc. In a table, Australia, the Bahamas and Dominica are each officially a Commonwealth. Next, Luxembourg is a Grand Duchy. Next, the United Arab Emirates is a collection of Muslim states, each an emirate in its own right. Next, Malaysia, Russia, Switzerland and Spain, Kitts and Nevis are each a federation. Next, Libya is a Jamahiriya. Next, there are 33 kingdoms in the world, but 18 termed as such. Within bracket, the other 15 are known as rims, within bracket closed. Jordan is specially a Hashemite, Hashemite kingdom. The Great Britain and Northern Ireland highlight their separate historical regions by calling themselves together as United Kingdom. Andorra, Liechtenstein and Monaco are each a principality. Republic is the most numerous form of government, at least officially, with 132 nations adopting it. There are broadly two forms of parliamentary democracies. 1. Westminster system or Westminster model tend to be found in Commonwealth of Nations countries, although it is not universal within nor exclusive to Commonwealth countries. These parliaments tend to have a more adversarial style of debate, and the plenary session of parliament is relatively more important than committees. Some parliaments in this model are elected using within bracket first past and post bracket closed. I repeat, within bracket first past the post with bracket closed. Electoral system within bracket, as for example Canada, India and the UK. Others using proportional representation, that is Israel and New Zealand. The Australian House of Representatives is elected using the alternative or preferential vote, while the Senate is elected using PRSTB within bracket proportional representation through the single transferable vote bracket closed. However, even with proportional representation systems are used, the systems used tends to allow the voter to vote for a named candidate rather than a party list. 2. Western European parliamentary model within bracket is, for example, Spain, Germany bracket closed, tend to have a more consensual debating system and have semi-cyclical debating chambers. Proportional representation systems are used, though there is more of a tendency to use party list systems than the Westminster model legislatures. The committees of those parliaments tend to be more important than the plenary chamber. This model is sometimes called the Western German model, since it was used in the parliament of the West Germany, later United Germany parliament. There also exists a hybrid model, the semi-presidential system, drawing on both presidential systems and parliamentary systems. For example, the French Fifth Republic, much of Eastern Europe has adopted this model since the early 1990s. Parliamentary systems, as compared to presidential ones, are more responsible, more executive, more responsive, more relationship between the legislature and the executive produces a required laws more readily. Such systems, on the other hand, are relatively more unstable. There is every likelihood of government becoming insufficient in the hands of the majority. Ministers are immature and hence the dominance of bureaucracy. Some examples of parliamentary systems are states such as Denmark, Greece, Israel, New Zealand, Singapore, Sweden, India and Britain. 5b. Presidential form of government. Under chapter Forms of Government, page 12.10. 5b. Presidential form of government. It is a system of government wherein executive branch exists and presides within bracket, hence the term bracket closed, separately from the legislature, to which it is not accountable and which cannot in normal circumstances dismiss it. Such a form of government is based on separation of powers. The usual features of the presidential forms of government are: 1. The president is both head of state and head of a government. 2. The president may not have the ability to legislate directly. He is not a voting member and may not be allowed to introduce bills. As in the United States, the president has the power to send messages and veto acts of the legislature, and in turn a super majority of legislatures may act to override the veto. 3. The president has a fixed term of office. Elections are held at scheduled times and cannot be triggered by a vote of confidence or other such parliamentary procedures. However, many presidential systems incorporate provisions for the president's trial and subsequent removal from office by the legislature if he or she is found to have committed a crime. 4. The executive branch is unipersonal. Members of the cabinet serve as at the pressure of the president and must carry out the policies of the executive and legislative branches. However, presidential systems frequently require legislative approval of presidential nominations to the cabinet as well as very government posts such as judges. Countries with presidential systems include the United States, Indonesia, the Philippines, Mexico, South Korea, and most countries in South America, as well as much of Africa and the Central Asia republics. The widespread use of the presidentialism in the America has caused political scientists to dub the Americans as within inverted comma the continent of presidentialism, bracket inverted comma close. Presidential forms of government, president being almost directly elected, have the advantage of being more democratic. Separation of power through a system of checks and balances obliterates autocratic rule, stability and decisiveness and other merits of presidentialism. There is a tendency towards authoritarianism taking roots in presidential system. Separation of powers creates deadlocks and as well too much stability leads to too much rigidity. Following are the differences between the presidential system and the parliament or cabinet system of government. Number 1. In a presidential system, the central principle is that the legislative and executive branches of the government should be separate. This leads to the separate election of president, who is elected to office for a fixed term, and only removal for gross misdemeanor by impeachment and dismissal. In addition, he or she does not need to choose cabinet members commanding the support of the legislature. By contrast, in parliamentarism, the executive branch is led by a council of ministers headed by a prime minister who are directly accountable to the legislature and often have their background in the legislature. 2. Chapter 12, Forms of Government, page 12.11, under 5b, Presidential Form of Government. Now 2. As with the President's set term of office, the legislature also exists for a set term of office and cannot be dissolved ahead of schedule. By contrast, in parliamentary systems, the legislature can typically be dissolved at any stage during its life by the head of state, usually on the advice of either prime minister alone, by the prime minister and cabinet, or by the cabinet. 3. In a presidential system, the president usually has special privilege in the enactment of legislation, namely the possession of a power of veto over legislation of bills, in some cases subject to the power of the legislature by the weight majority to override the veto. However, it is extremely rare for the president to have the power to directly propose laws or cast a vote on legislation. The legislature and the president are expected to serve as checks and balances on each other's powers. 4. Separation of power is the characteristic of the presidential form of government. Fusion of power, that is that of parliamentary one. 5. Ministers in the presidential form work under the leadership of the president as his her subordinates. Ministers in the parliamentary form work as colleagues. 6. The president in the presidential system cannot justify the budget in the legislature which he gets it made, but in the parliamentary system, the prime minister, through the majority support, can get the budget passed by the parliament. In the former system, the president is not the President is not the member of the legislature, while the latter system, the Prime Minister is the leader of the legislature. In reality, elements of both systems overlap. Though a president is a presidential system, does not have to choose a government answerable to the legislature. The legislature may have the right to scrutinize his or his appointments to high governmental office, with the right on some occasions to block an appointment. In the United States, many appointments are to be confined by the Senate. By contrast, though answerable to Parliament, a parliamentary system's cabinet may be able to make use of the parliamentary within inverted comma, whip, inverted comma, close, within bracket, an obligation on party members in Parliament to vote with their party, bracket close, to control and doctrine Parliament, reducing its ability to control the government. 5C. Semi-presidential. It is a system of government in which a Prime Minister and a President are both active participants in the day-to-day administration of the state. It differs from a parliamentary republic in that it has a popularly elected head of states who is more than a purely ceremonial figurehead. It differs from the presidential system in that the cabinet, though named by the president, is responsible to the legislature, which may force the cabinet to resign through a motion of no confidence. The way of powers are divided between president and the prime minister vary greatly between countries. In France, for example, the president is responsible for foreign policy and the prime minister for domestic policy. It is in this case the division of powers between the prime minister and the president is not explicitly stated in the constitution but has evolved a political convention. In Finland, by contrast, this particular aspect of the separation of powers is explicitly stated in the constitution. Within inverted comma, foreign policy is led by the president in cooperation with the cabinet. Inverted comma close. In this, if the president and the prime minister belong to the two different political parties, there may be conflict visible in the administration. The Sri Lanka politics, for example, witnessed a bitter struggle for several years because the two officers were held by two different political parties. Page 12.12. Chapter 12, Forms of Government. 6. Unitary and Federal. 6a. Unitary form of government. The unitary state is governed constitutionally as one single unit. The power of the government is exercised constitutionally by one government, say the central government. The central government may transfer some of its powers to the local or subordinate government through a law, but it retains the right to recall such delegated power. Thus, devolution of power to the sub-governmental units which work as subordinate units is possible by the central government. The majority of the world's countries are unitary states, mainly because most of them are not large enough to warrant a separation into distinct internal territories. Thus, many of the non-unitary states of the world are very large in size, particularly Russia, Canada, United States, Brazil, India, and Australia. This does not imply that large size will invariably result in non-unitary government. China, for instance, due to its political and social cultural history, has not seen the rise of a non-unitary government, though certain economists argue that the current political and economic situation in mainland China constitute a unique form of Chinese federalism. Other countries, examples are Belgium and Switzerland, which, despite having a small territory, have developed a complex federal system. The United Kingdom is a unitary state with a series of parliament created developed assemblies. The United Kingdom is a unitary state with a series of parliament created devolved assemblies for Scotland, Wales and North Ireland, all of which were created between 1998 and 1999. The Republic of Ireland is a unitary state without subnational governments. Some examples of unitary states are Algeria, Bangladesh, Chile, China, Cuba, Denmark, East Timor, France, Ghana, Greece, Indonesia, Israel, Italy, Japan, Kenya, Laos, Libya, Mauritius, Myanmar, Netherlands, New Zealand, North Korea, Norway, Panama, Portugal, Singapore, Spain, Sri Lanka, Turkey, United Kingdom, Vietnam, Zambia and Zimbabwe. 6b. Federal form of government. It is a form of government in which a group of states, while leaving their sovereign status, come to form a central government over themselves. The other method of forming the federation is that a large country is bifurcated into several states. The USA and Switzerland (centrifugal) are federations of the first type. India and the former USSR (centripetal) of a second type, originated from the Latin word foedus, F-O-E-D-U-S. Federalism is the system in which the power to govern is shared between the national and the state governments. Its features include a written constitution specifying the power of both the federal government and of the federating units. B. A rigid constitution in that its provisions are amended by the approval of both types of government. C. Decentralization of power as per the provisions of the constitutions. D. A relatively powerful judiciary to protect the federal structure. E. A second chamber as a part of national legislature, so to represent the interests of the federating units. Its other features are dual citizenship, dual set of judiciary, dual type of laws. Federations vary from country to country with regard to power shared between the national and the state governments. In the USA, the powers of the national government are specified. The residuary power rests with the states. In India, there are the three lists: the union lists on such items the national government makes laws, the state list on such terms the state government make laws the concurrent list on such items both types of government makes laws though in the event of clash the union law prevails. There can be a residuary list over which the national government can make laws. Federations vary also from country to country with regard to the amendment procedure. The USA has a rigid method while India partly rigid and partly flexible. Federalism works largely in large countries. It provides a coordination between national unity and regional autonomy, lessens the burden of the national government, administrative efficiency increases. Its weaknesses include lack of uniformity, frequent deadlocks between the two types of government, usually weak, relatively expensive and occasionally rigid. Page 12.13. Chapter 12, Forms of Government, Exercise. Exercise 1, within inverted comma, constitutional government means A. Representative government, B. Limited government, C. Government according to the constitution, and D. Government by the consent of the people. The correct answer is B, that is limited government. Exercise 2, which one of the following is an essential prerequisite for constitutionalism? A. Limited government, B. A written constitution, C. Guarantee of fundamental rights, and D. Division of powers. The correct answer is A, that is limited government. Exercise 3, a constitutional system with its, within inverted comma, basic principle of executive's continuous responsibility to the legislature is A. People's democracy, B. Parliamentary democracy, C. Socialist democracy, and D. Direct democracy. The correct answer is B, that is parliamentary democracy. 4. Constitutional government stands for A. Limited government, B. A government limited by the desires and capacities of those who exercise power, C. A government run according to general laws known to the people, D. A government run by people's representatives. The correct answer is A, that is limited government. Exercise 5. The US method of amending the constitution is A. Simple, B. Absolute, C. Simple as well as absolute, D. Partly simple and partly absolute. The correct answer is B, that is absolute. Exercise 6. Within inverted comma, democracy is an institutional arrangement for arriving at political decisions and not an end in itself. Inverted comma close. This argument is put forth by in the horizontal column scholars space books. Under scholars in the vertical column, against serial number A, Joseph Schumpeter, against serial number B, Carol Pateman, against serial number C, Milton Friedman, and against serial number D, Robert Nozick. Under books in the vertical column, serial number 1, Capitalism, Socialism and Democracy, 2, Participation and Democratic Theory, 3, Capitalism and Freedom, 4, Anarchy, State and Utopia. The correct answer is A, that is Joseph Schumpeter, and books 1, Capitalism, Socialism and Democracy. Exercise 7. Which of the following statements gives a correct definition of a constitution? A. The rules and procedures concerning the relationship among the structures of government and their principal powers and functions. B. A fundamental statement of laws governing the citizens' political rights, the institutions, their functions, and their relationship within a particular political community. C. A primary source of constitutional law which serves as a guide for the decisions of the courts of law which interpret the rules. D. The ordering of political processes and institutions on the basis of a document that lays down the pattern of formal political institutions and embodies the basic political norms of a society. The correct answer is B, that is a fundamental statement of laws governing the citizens' political rights, the institutions, their functions, and their relationship within a particular political community. Exercise 12, Forms of Government, page 2.14. Exercises. Exercise number 8. Consider the following statements about constitutional government. Constitutional government is 1. A form of limited government, 2. One where authority is derived from the constitution, 3. One where the monarch is the formal head of the state, 4. One where the constitution along with the law limits and ratifies the exercise of power. Which of the statements given above are correct? A. 1, 2 and 4, B. 2 and 4, C. 2, 3 and 4, D. 1 and 3. The correct answer is A, that is 1, 2 and 4. 1. A form of limited government. 2. One where authority is derived from the constitution. 4. One where the constitution along with the law limits and ratifies the exercise of power. Exercise 9. A constitution is said to be rigid if A. Its method of amendment is simple, B. Its method of amendment is absolute, C. Its method of amendment is both simple and absolute. D. Its method is partly simple and partly absolute. The correct answer is B. Its method of amendment is absolute. Exercise 10. The theory of separation of powers was initiated by A. Blackstone, B. Madison, C. Locke, and D. Montesquieu. The correct answer is D, that is Montesquieu. Exercise 11. Which of the following countries once had tricameralism? A. France, B. India, C. South Africa, and D. Spain. The correct answer is C. South Africa. Exercise 12. According to Aristotle, the perverted form of government with regard to polity was A. monarchy, B. democracy, C. aristocracy, and D. oligarchy. The correct answer is D, that is democracy. Exercise 13. Which of the following organ of government in China is over and above the normal three organs? A. National People's Congress, B. Standing Committee, C. Presidium, and D. State Council. The correct answer is B, that is Standing Committee. Exercise 14. Match list 1 with list 2 and select the correct code. In the horizontal column, list 1 space list 2. Under list 1 in the vertical column, against serial number capital A, heterarchy, serial number capital B, idiocracy, serial number capital C, monocracy, and serial number capital D, kleptocracy. Under list 2 in the vertical column, against serial number 1, personal self-rule, against serial number 2, government by the foreign ruler, against serial number 3, government by thieves, against serial number 4, government by one individual. Code. In the horizontal column, capital A space capital B space capital C space capital D. Under A in the vertical column, against serial number A2, against serial number B2, serial number C2, serial number D1. Under capital D in the vertical column, against serial number A3, B4, C1, D2. Under capital C in the vertical column, against serial number A1, B1, C4, D4. Under capital D against serial number A, under capital D in the vertical column, against serial number A4, B3, C3, and D3. The correct answer is C, that is under A. Heterarchy. 2, that is government by the foreign ruler. B. Idiocracy. 1, that is personal self-rule. C. Monocracy. 4, that is government by one individual. D. Kleptocracy, that is 3, government by thieves. Exercise 15. Which of the following is true about constitutionalism? A. There is a provision for a limited government. B. There is a provision for responsive government. C. There is a provision for democratic government. D. There is a provision for liberal government. The correct answer is A. There is a provision for a limited government. Exercise 16. Consider the following statements. 1. A democratic government may be liberal 1. 2. A liberal government may be democratic 1. 3. A liberal democratic government is usually a collectivistic state. 4. A liberal democratic government is usually a welfare state. Which of the statements given above are correct? A. 1, 2, 3, B. 1, 2, 4, C. 1, 3, 4, and D. 2, 3, 4. The correct answer is A, that is 1, 2, and 4. 1. A democratic government may be liberal 1. 2. A liberal government may be democratic 1. 4. A liberal democratic government is usually a welfare state. Page 12.15. Exercise 12. Forms of government exercises. Exercise 17. Match list with list 2. In the horizontal column, list 1 space list 2. Under list 1 in the vertical column, capital against capital serial number capital A, Barber. Against serial number capital B, Paine. Against serial number capital C, Strong. Against serial number capital D, Final. Under list 2 in the vertical column, against serial number 1, Model Political Constitutions. Serial number 2, the lawmaker. Serial number 3, Theory and Practice of Governments. Serial number 4, Common Sense. court. In the horizontal column, capital A, capital B, capital C, capital D. Under A, capital A, in the vertical column, against serial number A, 3, B, 1, C, 4, D, 2. Under capital B, against serial number A, 2, B, 2, C, 3, D, 4. Under capital C, against serial number A, 1, B, 3, C, 2, and D, 1. Under capital D in the serial vertical column, under capital D in the vertical column, against serial number A4, B4, C1 and D3. The correct answer is D, that is under serial number A, barber. 2, that is the lawmaker. Under serial number, against under capital B, that is pain. 4, that is common sense. Under capital C, strong. 1, that is modern political constitutions. Under D, finer. 3, that is theory and practice of governments. Exercise 18. The first systematic classification of government was given by Aristotle, B, Plato, C, Socrates, and D, Montesquieu. The correct answer is A, that is Aristotle. Exercise 19. Consider the following statements. Aristotle's classification of constitution is based on 1. The size of states, 2. The ends pursued by states, 3. The kinds of authority exercised by the government. Of these statements, A, 1, 2 and 3 are correct, B, 1, 2 are correct, C, 2 and 3 are correct, D, 1 and 3 are correct. The correct answer is C, that is 1 and 3 are correct. Exercise 20. In which of the following systems of government is bicameralism an essential feature? A, presidential system, B, parliamentary system, C, federal system, and D, unity system. The correct answer is C, that is federal system. Exercise 21. The most powerful legislature in the world is the A, Indian Parliament, B, US Congress, C, Swiss legislature, and D, British Parliament. The correct answer is D, that is British Parliament. Exercise 22. The object of the adjournment motion in Parliament is to A, collect information from the ministers, B, make a cut in the budget proposals, C, criticize a particular policy of the government, D, topple the government. The correct answer is C, criticize a particular policy of the government. Exercise 23. According to Aristotle, the following form of government was the best: A, monarchy, B, aristocracy, C, democracy, and D, polity. The correct answer is D, that is democracy. Exercise 24. The object of the vote of no confidence motion is A, to adjourn the legislature, B, to seek redressal of complaints, C, to demonstrate displeasure and distrust in the government, D, to ask the ministers to give explanation of the work not done. The correct answer is C, that is to demonstrate displeasure and distrust in the government. Exercise 25. 0 hour begins: A, at the beginning of the day, B, at midday, C, at the end of the day, D, at the time when the Prime Minister suggests. The correct answer is B, that is at midday. Exercise 26. The German cum Swiss writer Blanchard gave his own classification of governments. Which of the following did figure in that classification as against Aristotle? A, theocracy, B, oligarchy, C, aristocracy, and D, democracy. The correct answer is 26A, that is theocracy. Blanchard added theocracy in what was stated by Aristotle. Exercise 27. Which of the following statement is wrong? A, under the parliamentary system there exists the leadership of the Prime Minister, but under the presidential system the President is the leader of the government. B, under the parliamentary system there exists both nominal head and actual head, but under the presidential system there is only one head. C, under the parliamentary system there is the integration between the legislature and the executive, but under the presidential system there is separation between the legislature and the executive. D. Under the parliamentary system, sovereignty rests with parliament, but under the presidential system, the president is sovereign. The correct answer is D. Under the parliamentary system, sovereignty rests with parliament, but under the presidential system, the president is sovereign. Chapter 12, Forms of Government, Exercises, page 12.16. Exercise number 28. The cabinet form of government means a system of government which is marked by the existence of a group which collectively decides on the policies of the government and which is also collectively responsible to the parliament. B. A form of government in which the cabinet is supreme and is not accountable to any other organ of the state. C. A form of government in which all the members of the cabinet are popularly elected on the basis of universal adult franchise. D. A form of government in which it is the president and not the prime minister who presides over the cabinet meeting for the reason that he is directly elected by the people. The correct answer is A. A system of government which is marked by the existence of a group which collectively decides on the policies of the government and which is also collectively responsible to the parliament. Exercise 29. The post-war epoch has been the transformation of the cabinet government into A. Bureaucratic despotism, B. One-party dominant rule, B. The prime ministerial government, and D. Judicial supremacy. The correct answer is C. The prime ministerial government. Exercise 30. The statement within inverted comma, it brings about a chasm between sources of knowledge and legislative centers of their application, inverted comma close, applies to A. the presidential system of government, B. the practice of delegated legislation, C. dictatorship of the cabinet, D. the relationship between ministers and civil servants. The correct answer is D. the relationship between ministers and civil servants. Exercise 31. In the parliamentary form of government, the members of the Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to A. the head of state, B. the chairman of the upper house and the speaker of the lower house, C. the popular house of the parliament, D. the prime minister. The correct answer is C. the popular house of the parliament. Exercise 32. Which of the following is not an essential feature of the parliamentary system? A. Fusion of the executive and the legislature, B. nominal head of the state, C. collective responsibility, D. fixed tenure. The correct answer is D, that is fixed tenure. Exercise 33. Given below are two statements. One is one labeled as assertion A and the other labeled as reason R. Assertion A. The act of civil servant is by convention regarded as the act of the minister. Reason R. It is recognized rule of parliamentary practice that the criticism of administrative action must be framed as criticism of minister, not as criticism of the civil servant. In the context of the above two statements, which of the following is correct? A. Both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation of A. B. Both A and R are true but R is not the correct expression of A. C. A is true but R is false. And D. A is false but R is true. The correct answer is A, that is both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation of A. Exercise 34. The feature which is present in the presidential system but lacking in the parliamentary system is the A. distinction between the real and the nominal executive, B. fixed tenure of the chief executive, C. formation of the executive from the members of legislatures, and D. responsibility of the executive to the legislature. The correct answer is B, that is fixed tenure of the chief executive. Page 12.17. Exercise 12. Forms of government. Exercises. Repeat, wrong. Chapter 12. Forms of government. Exercises. Exercise number 35. Under the cabinet form of government, the cabinet generally remains in office, A. for a fixed term, B. so long as it enjoys the confidence of the popular chamber of legislature. C. So long as it enjoys the confidence of the head of the state. Now it is D. So long as it enjoys the confidence of the electorate. The correct answer is B. So long as it enjoys the confidence of the popular chamber of legislature. Exercise 36. Assertion A. Parliamentary system of government is based on the principle of collective responsibility. Reason R. A parliamentary defeat is not necessarily a sufficient cause for resignation of the ministry. A. Both A and R are true, but R is the correct explanation of A. B. Both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation of A. C. A is true, but R is false. And D. A is false, but R is true. The correct answer is C. That is, A is true, but R is false. Exercise 37. Within inverted comma, the cabinet is the system that joins the buckle that fastens the executive to the legislature. Inverted comma close. This is according to A. Charles Merriam, B. Joseph Schumpeter, C. C.F. Strong, and D. Walter Bagehot. The correct answer is D. That is Walter Bagehot. Exercise 36. In which of the following countries does a mixture of parliamentary and presidential form of government exist? A. Switzerland, B. France, C. I repeat, A. Switzerland, B. France, C. United States of America, and D. Germany. The correct answer is B. That is France. Exercise 39. Which of the following is a feature of the parliamentary system? A. Real executive head, B. Individual responsibility, C. Collective responsibility, D. Powerful judiciary. The correct answer is C. That is collective responsibility. Exercise 40. Which of the following is /R are not the main features of the parliamentary system of the government? 1. Fusion of powers. 2. Judicial review. 3. Written constitution. A. 1 and 3, B. 2 and 3, C. 2 and 4. Wrong. C. 2 alone and D. 3 alone. The correct answer is B. That is 2 and 3. That is judicial review and written constitution. Exercise 41. The basic problem in the working of parliamentary system in India arises out of A. Lack of cohesive and viable party system, B. The absence of an efficient and the independent bureaucracy, C. Lack of clear constitutional provisions, D. Weak political executive on account of its dependence on the legislature. The correct answer is A. That is lack of cohesive and variable party system. Exercise 42. Consider the following features. 1. Presence of a nominal or titular head of state. 2. Collective responsibility of cabinet. 3. Accountability of executive to the legislature. 4. Separation of powers. Which of these are the features of parliamentary form of government? A. 2, 3 and 4, B. 1, 2 and 4, C. 1, 3 and 4, D. 1, 2 and 3. The correct answer is D. That is 1, 2 and 3. Exercise 43. In a parliamentary form of government, ministers are appointed by A. the head of the state at his discretion, B. the head of the government, C. the head of the state on the recommendations of the head of the government, D. the legislature. The correct answer is C. the head of the state on the government. No, wrong. I repeat, the head of the state on the recommendation of the head of the government. Chapter 12, Forms of Government Exercises, page 12.18, exercise number 44. In which the following form of governments wealth plays a significant role? A. Aristocracy, B. Dictatorship, C. Plutocracy, and D. Monarchy. The correct answer is C. That is plutocracy. Plutocracy is the rule of the wealthy. Exercise 45. Which of the following was described as the champion of the shirtless people within inverted comma? A. Nkrumah, Ghana, B. Paran, Argentina, C. Salazar, Portugal, and D. Sukarno, Indonesia. The correct answer is B, that is Peron, Argentina. Exercise 46. Which of the following statements in regard to presidential form of government is not correct? A. Members of the cabinet are not representatives of the people since they do not have definite program of their own to implement. B. The members of the cabinet are responsible to the president for all their actions. C. Real executive is the legislature. D. There is no gap between theory and practice. The correct answer is C, that is real executive is the legislature. Exercise 47. A telling example of a fusion of the presidential and parliamentary forms of government is provided by A. Switzerland, B. Canada, C. France, and D. Germany. The correct answer is C, that is France. Exercise 48. Which of the following principles distinguishes the cabinet system from the presidential system? A. Fixed tenure of government. B. Judicial review. C. The relationship of the legislature with the executive. And D. The concentration or division of governmental powers. The correct answer is C. The relationship of the legislature with the executive. Exercise 49. Consider the following pairs. 1. Presidential democracy, cabinet with and without the legislature. 2. Parliamentary democracy, harmonious relationship between the executive and the legislature. 3. Unitary form of government, local government with no original powers. Which of these pairs are correctly matched? A. 1, 2 and 3, B. 1 and 2, C. 1 and 3, D. 2 and 3. The correct answer is D, that is 2 and 3. Parliamentary democracy, harmonious relationship between the executive and the legislature. 3. Unitary form of government, local government with no original powers. Exercise 50. Who is called the keystone of the cabinet arch in a parliamentary system? A. President, B. Prime Minister, C. Speaker of the lower house, and D. Chief Justice. The correct answer is B, that is Prime Minister. Exercise 51. Which of the following are called the palace guards in the United States? A. A body of ministers, B. A body of all living vice presidents, C. A body of all living presidents, and D. Judges of the Supreme Court. A correct answer is C, that is a body of all living presidents. All living presidents are called the palace guards in the USA. Exercise 52. Which of the following is are forms of system with which the unitary system is compatible? A. 1. Presidential form of government. 2. Parliamentary form of government. 3. System of judicial review. A. 1 and 2, B. 1 and 3, C. 1, 2 and 3, and D. None of the above. The correct answer is A, that is 1 and 2. Exercise 53. Which of the following statements regarding parliamentary and presidential forms of government is correct? I repeat, the correct answer of 52 is wrong. I repeat, exercise 52. Which of the following is are forms of system with which the unitary system is compatible? 1. Presidential form of government. 2. Parliamentary forms of government. 3. Systems of judicial review. Correct. A. 1 and 2, B. 1 and 3, C. 1, 2 and 3, D. None of the above. The correct answer is A. 1 and 2. 1. Presidential form of government. 2. Parliamentary form of government. Exercise 53. Which of the following statements regarding parliamentary and presidential forms of government is correct? A. In both the executive is responsible to the legislature. B. In both the chief executive is nominal. C. In both command of confidence of the legislature is necessary for the execution to remain in office. D. Both the forms are representative in character. The correct answer is D, that is both the forms are representative in character. Exercise 54. In the presidential system of government, the cabinet members are A. Elected by the legislature, B. All members of the political party to which the president belongs, D. Nominated by the president, and C. Nominated by the president, and D. All elected representative of the legislature. The correct answer is C, that is nominated by the President. Chapter 12, Forms of Government, Exercises, page 12.19. Exercise 55. To which of the following theories does the presidential form of government owe its roots? A. Collective responsibility. B. Checks and balance. C. Separation of powers. And D. Individual responsibility. The correct answer is C, that is separation of powers. Exercise 56. Within inverted comma, all the ministers sail and sink together. Inverted comma close. This is true of the following form of government. A. Presidential. B. Parliamentary. C. Unitary. D. Federal. The correct answer is B, that is parliamentary. Exercise 57. Which of the following combination of countries do not have presidential form of government? A. USA, Brazil, Chile. B. Brazil, Chile, Argentina. C. Argentina, Mexico, Great Britain. And D. Mexico, USA, Chile. The correct answer is C, that is Argentina, Mexico and Great Britain. 57. C. Britain is parliamentary. Exercise 58. Bonapartism implies A. Strong executive heads. B. Strong legislature. C. Strong judiciary. D. Strong electorate. The correct answer is A. Strong executive head. Exercise 59. Consider the following statements with regard to the presidential form of government. 1. Harmony between legislature and executive. 2. Harmony between executive and judiciary. 3. Harmony between judiciary and legislature. 4. Balance between the three organs, legislature, executive, judiciary. Which of the statements given above is are correct? A. 1 and 2 only. B. 1, 2, 3 only. C. 2 only. And D. 4 only. The correct answer is D, that is 4 only. 4 means balance between the three organs, legislature, executive, judiciary. Exercise 60. The authority possessed by local bodies in a unitary system of government is A. Original. B. Derived from the central government. C. Derived from the constitution. And D. Derived from the people. The correct answer is B. Derived from the, repeat, correct answer is B, that is derived from the central government. Exercise 61. Assertion A. Unitary government creates a favorable atmosphere for the development of national sentiment. Reason R. The loyalty of the citizen is not divided as there is uniformity of laws, policies and administration throughout the state. A. Both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation of A. B. Both A and R are true but R is not the correct explanation of A. C. A is true but R is false. D. A is false but R is true. The correct answer is A. Both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation of A. Exercise 62. The unitary state is stronger than a federal one because all powers of government are concentrated in the hands of one single set of authorities. Hence, there is A. Absence of control of authority and responsibility. B. Absence of simplification of government organization. C. Overlapping of jurisdiction. And D. Duplication of functions. The correct answer is A, that is absence of conflict of authority and responsibility. Exercise 53. Assertion A. Presidential system ensures stability of government. Reason R. The executive head has the fixed tenure in office. A and R are true. R is the correct explanation of A. B. A and R are true. R is not the explanation of A. C. A is true. R is false. D. A is false. R is true. The correct answer is A. That is A and R are true. R is the correct explanation of A. Exercise 12.20. All wrong. I repeat all the exercises from 60 question. Exercise 64. Chapter 12, Forms of Government, Political Science. Exercises. Exercise 64. Within inverted comma 7 eyes and not 1 eyes, 1 knees. Knees will have it inverted comma close, it is characteristic of the following form of government: A. Unitary, B. Federal, C. Parliamentary, and D. Presidential. The correct answer is 64D, that is presidential. D. This is true about US system. Exercise 65. Which of the following could be considered as precondition for the establishment of federal government? A desire among a group of communities or states to form a regional association so as to augment their bargaining power with the neighboring bigger states without sacrificing any of their autonomous powers to a higher authority. B. A desire among a group of communities or states to leave all major functions of government to a central and independent authority, retaining with them only some welfare work. C. A desire among a group of communities or states to form an association of themselves to face some problems relating to communications and defense without any desire to establish a single independent government above them on a lasting basis. D. A desire among a group of communities or states to function under a single independent government for some purposes on a lasting basis without surrendering their autonomy in other areas. The correct answer is D. A desire among a group of communities or states to function under a single independent government for some purposes on a lasting basis without surrendering their autonomy in other areas. Exercise 66. Which of the following characteristics are essential to federal government? 1. A supreme and written constitution. 2. Separation of powers and the system of checks and balances. 3. Distribution of powers between the center and states in a manner that each is independent of the other. And 4. Fundamental rights guaranteed to citizens. A. 1 and 2, B. 1 and 3, C. 2 and 4, D. 2, 3 and 4. The correct answer is B, that is 1 and 3. 1. A supreme and written constitution. 3. Distribution of powers between the center and states in a manner that each is independent of the other. Exercise 67. Federation implies A. Fusion of powers, B. Separation of powers, C. Division of powers, D. Devolution of powers. The correct answer is C, that is division of powers. Exercise 68. In a federal system, A. The union is dissolvable, B. The states can secede from the union, C. The union is indestructible, D. The union and states are indestructible. The correct answer is D, that is the union and states are indestructible. So exercise 69. Assertion A. Federal government is a political mechanism for reconciling national unity and power with the maintenance of states' rights. Reason R. Autonomous state with contiguous territory having certain common affinities and historical interests crave for unity by means of a national government. The correct both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. B. Both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation of A. C. A is true, but R is false. D. A is false, but R is true. The correct explanation is B, that is both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation of A. Exercise 70. In which of the following federal systems decentralization is implemented under the grassroots doctrine? A. Canada, B. Australia, C. India, and D. USA. The correct answer is C, that is India. So exercise 71. Consider the following statements in respect of distribution between the federal and the state government. 1. As evidenced from the history of federations, there is no logical relationship between the location of residuary powers and the strength of the government. 2. Under the Commerce Clause of the American Constitution, enormous centralization has taken place in the American political system. Which of these statements given above is are correct? 1. A 1 only, B 2 only, C both A 1 and 2, and D neither 1 and 2. C both 1 and 2. 1. As evidenced from the history of federations, there is no logical relationship between the location of residuary powers and the strength of the government. 2. Under the Commerce Clause of the American Constitution, enormous centralization has taken place in the American political systems. 72. Which of the following does not match? I repeat. Chapter 12, Forms of Government, Exercises, page 12.21, exercise number 72. Which of the following does not match? A. Anarchy, government by none. B. Aristocracy, government by the worst. C. Aristocracy, government by the nobility. D. Bureaucracy, government by civil service. The correct answer is B. That is aristocracy, government by the worst. Aristocracy is the government by the best. Exercise 73. Who among the following said, within inverted comma, federalism seeks to reconcile unity with multiplicity, centralization with decentralization, and nationalism with localism? Inverted comma close. A. K.C. Ware. B. W.H. Ricker. C. Daniel J. Elger. And D. A.V. Dickey. The correct answer is A. That is K.C. Ware. Exercise 74. Which of the following combinations has all federal states? A. USA, Canada, Australia, Sri Lanka. B. France, Malaysia, Canada, USA. C. Pakistan, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Canada. D. USA, Australia, Malaysia, Canada. The correct answer is D. USA, Australia, Malaysia and Canada. Exercise 75. The best form of federalism suited for countries like India is A. Centralized federalism, B. Bargaining federalism, D. Cooperative federalism, and C. Cooperative federalism, and D. Conflictive federalism. The correct answer is C. That is cooperative federalism. Exercise 76. Dual federalism implies that A. National and state governments retain separate spheres of action. B. National and state governments are interdependent. C. National and state governments are expected to collaborate in pursuit of interests of the public. And D. National and state governments have the same function. The correct answer is A. That is, national and state governments retain separate spheres of action. Exercise 77. Which of the following are correct about federalism? 1. It implies protection and co-determination. 2. It provides for additional controls of government, bureaucracy and parliament. 3. It makes the process of government a continuing task of adjustment and a coordination of competing interests. 4. It ensures uniformity of law and administration. Select the correct answer using the codes given below. A. 1, 2, 3 and 4. B. 1, 2 and 3. C. 2 and 3. And D. 1, 3 and 4. The correct answer is B. That is 1, 2 and 3. 1. It implies protection and co-determination. 2. It provides for additional controls of government, bureaucracy and parliament. 3. It makes the process of government a continuing task of adjustment and coordination of competing interests. Exercise 78. Which of the following combination has semi-presidential form of government? A. USA and Chile. B. Mexico and Philippines. C. France and Sri Lanka. And D. Pakistan and Brazil. The correct answer is C. That is France and Sri Lanka. Exercise 79. Consider the following statements with regard to the federal form of government. 1. Units are geographically contiguous. 2. Desire of union and not for unity. 3. Centralizing trends. 4. Separation of powers. Which of the above are correct? A. 1, 2, 3. B. 2, 3, 4. C. 1, 3, 4. D. 1, 2 and 4. The correct answer is D. That is 1, 2 and 4. 1. Units are geographically contiguous. 2. Desire for union and not for unity. 4. Separation of powers. Exercise 80. Assertion A. Unity and not union is the requisite of federation. Reason R. India is a union of states. A and R are true, but and R is the correct explanation of A. B. A and R are true, R is not the explanation of A. C. A is true, R is false. D. A is false, R is true. The correct answer is D, that is A is false, R is true. Page 12.22, exercise, wrong, repeat, chapter 12. Chapter 12 means forms of government, page 12.22, exercises, exercise 81. Match list with list 2. In the horizontal column, list 1, space list 2, under list 1, form of government, under list 2, essential features. Under list 1 and form of governments in the vertical column against serial number capital A, cabinet government, serial number capital B, presidential government, serial number capital C, federal government, serial number capital D, unitary government. Under list 2 and essential features, against serial number, in the vertical column against serial number 1, separation of powers, 2, collective responsibility, 3, concentration of powers, 4, division of powers, 5, administrative laws. Quote, in the horizontal column, capital A space capital B space capital C space capital D. Under A in the vertical column, against serial number A3, B2, C3, D4. Under capital B in the vertical column, against serial number A4, B1, C4, D3. Under capital C in the vertical column, against serial number A2, B4, C1, D2. Under under capital D in the vertical column against serial number A1, B3, C2 and D5. The correct answer is B, that is under A, cabinet government, 2, collective responsibility, B, presidential government, 1, separation of powers, C, federal government, 4, division of powers, D, unitary government, 3, that is concentration of powers. Exercise 82. Match list 1 with list 2. In the horizontal column, list 1, space list 2. Under list 1, books. Under list 2, authors. Under list 1 and books, in the vertical column against serial number A, the American presidency. Against serial number capital B, democracy in America. Against serial number capital C, the American Commonwealth. Against serial number capital D, congressional government. Under list 2 and authors, against serial number 1, Woodrow Wilson, 2, Harold Lasky, 3, James Bryce and D. Tocqueville. The correct code capital in the horizontal column, code A, capital A, space capital B, space capital C, space capital D. Under capital A in the vertical column, against serial number A4, serial number B4, serial number C2, serial number D2. Against capital D, under capital D in the vertical column, against serial number A2, B2, C4, D4. Under capital D, C in the vertical column, against serial number A3, B1, C3, D1. Under capital D in the vertical column, against serial number A1, B3, C1, D3. The correct answer is C. That is under A, the American presidency, 2, Harold Lasky. B, democracy of America, 4, De Tocqueville. C, the American Commonwealth, 3, that is James Bryce. D, that is congressional government, 1, that is Woodrow Wilson. Exercise 83. Match list 1 within bracket forms of government with list 2 essential features. In the horizontal column, list 1, space list 2. Under list 1 in the vertical column, against capital A, parliamentary government, capital B, presidential government, capital C, federal government system, capital D, unitary system. Under list 2 in the vertical column, 1, centralization of powers, 2, division of powers, 3, separation of powers, 4, collective responsibility. Quote, in the horizontal column, capital A, space capital B, space capital C, space capital D. Under capital A in the vertical column, against serial number A2, serial number B4, serial number C2, serial number D4. Under capital B in the vertical column, against serial number A1, B3, C3, D1. Under capital C in the vertical column, against serial number A4, B2, C4, D2. Under capital D in the vertical column, against serial number A3, B1, C1, D3. The correct answer is B, that is under A, parliamentary government for collective responsibility. Under B, presidential government. 3, that is separation of powers. Under C, that is federal system, that is 2, division of powers. And D, unitary system. 1, centralization of power. Exercise 84. Consider the following statements and select the correct quote. 1. Monarchy for Aristotle is the pure form, whereas tyranny is the perverted form of government. 2. Democracy for Aristotle is perverted, and polity is the pure form of government. Of these statements, A. Only one is true. B. Only 2 is true. 3. 1, 2 both are true. And D. 1, 2 both are false. The correct answer is C, that is 1, 2 both are true. That is, monarchy for Aristotle is the pure form, whereas tyranny is the perverted form of the government. 2. Democracy for Aristotle is perverted, and polity is the pure form of government. Exercise 685. Match list 1 with list 2. In the horizontal column, list 1 space list 2. Under list 1 in the vertical column, capital against serial number capital A, Box, capital B, Colomar, capital C, Menin, capital D, Elager. Under serial number under list 2 in the vertical column against serial number 1, political institutions. 2, democracy and redistribution. 3, exploring federalism. 4, principles of representative government. Quote. In the horizontal column, capital A space capital B space capital C space capital D. Under capital A in the vertical column against serial number A2, B2, C1, D1. Under capital B in the vertical column against serial number A1, B1, C2, D4. Under capital C in the vertical column against serial number A4, B3, C3, D1. Under capital D in the vertical column against serial number A3, B4, C4, D3. The correct answer is A, that is under serial number A, Boix. 2, that is democracy and redistribution. Under capital B, that is Colomar. 1, political institutions. Under C, that is Menin. 4, that is principles of representative government. Under D, that is Elager. 3, that is exploring federalism. Page 12.23, Chapter 12, Forms of Government, Table, Forms of Government. In a table, in the horizontal column, Forms of Government, space explanation. Under Forms of Government in the vertical column, albocracy, anarchy. I repeat, in the table, in the horizontal column, Forms of Government, explanation. Under Forms of Government, albocracy. Under explanation, government by white people. Under Forms of Government in the vertical column, anarchy. Under explanation, government by none. Under Forms of Government in the vertical column, androcracy. Under explanation in the vertical column, government by men. Under Forms of Government, argenetocracy. Under explanation, government by money. Under Forms of Government, aristarchy. Under explanation, government by the best. Under Forms of Government, aristocracy. Under explanation, government by the nobility. Under Forms of Government, arithmocracy. Under explanation, government by simple majority. Under Forms of Government, autocracy, autarky. Explanation, government by an absolute ruler. Under forms of government, autocracy, explanation, government by one individual. Under forms of government, barbarocracy, explanation, government by barbarians. Under forms of government, decarchy, explanation, government by 10 individuals. Under forms of government, demarchy, explanation, government by the people, popular government. Under forms of government, democracy, explanation, government by the people. Under forms of government, demonarchy, explanation, government by a demon. Under forms of government, demonocracy, explanation, government by demons or evil forces. Under forms of government, despotocracy, explanation, government by despots or tyrants. Under forms of government, foolocracy, explanation, government by fools. Under forms of government, gerontocracy, explanation, government by the aged. Under forms of government, gunarchy, explanation, government by women, gunarchy. Under forms of government, heterarchy, explanation, government by a foreign ruler. Under forms of government, hierarchy, explanation, government by a ranked body, government by priests. Under forms of government, hierocracy, explanation, government by priests or religious ministers. Under forms of government, hypocrisy, under forms of government, hyparchy, explanation, rule or control of horses. Under forms of government, hoplarchy, explanation, government by the military. Under forms of government, kakistocracy, explanation, government by the worst. Under forms of government, kleptocracy, explanation, government by thieves. Under forms of government, kritarchy, explanation, government by judges. Under forms of government, matriarchy, explanation, government by women or mothers. Under forms of government, meritocracy, explanation, government by the meritorious. Under forms of government, medicracy, the explanation, government by a part of the citizenry. Under forms of government, mesocracy, explanation, government by the middle classes. Under forms of government, plutarchy, explanation, government by the wealthy, plutocracy. Under forms of government, plutocracy, explanation, government by the wealthy. Under polarchy, explanation, government by many people, polarchy. Under forms of government, policocracy, explanation, government by police. In this chapter, authors and books, in the chapter 12, forms of government, page 12.24. Beckvis H. and Chandler W. H. Federalism and the Role of the State. Box Carls, Democracy and Redistribution. Burgess M. and Gagnon A. Eds, Comparative Federalism and Federation. Colomar J. Political Institutions. Frank Thomas M. Why Federations Fail. Kimlicka W. and When N. Eds, Citizenship in Diverse Societies. Richpart Arendt, Democracy in Plural Societies. Manin B. Principles of Representative Government. Przeworski A. Democracy and the Rule of Law. Sweet Alice S. Governing with Judges. Weil MIC. constitutionalism and the separation of powers. Where KC, federal government.